we always envisioned the Gator Cup as a stepping stone to those bigger events. So the fact that these kids are going there is great. The idea that you'll just go to practice and then all of a sudden go to these large tournaments down south, 3+ hours away, is kind of, um, there's got to be a way to bridge the gap there. And so that's hopefully what the Gator Cup is.
So, Joe, fourth annual Gator Cup going pretty good, huh?
Yeah, it's going good, man. It's definitely grown over the years. We've tooled with the different ways that we create the series, that we score things, and that we hand out our prizes. I think this year, the new implementation of the grand champion prizes, I think, has been a success so far. It gives a way for kids. You have two stud kids in the same age group for them both to get recognized. And I was telling some of my kids actually at practice yesterday, these grand champion awards are going to be more rare than the actual Gatorheads themselves this year. So if you're getting either one of those two prizes, you should be very pleased with yourself. There's going to be a lot of overlap, but there's looking like there's only one high school kid that's going to get the grand champion. So
Let's go and talk about how they get the Gator Cups and the Grand Champion hoodies.
yeah, so the Gatorheads are scored. It's in a way you can think of an MVP award. They have most outstanding wrestler at most of these high school events, and that's voted on. I always felt like it was a little political, and this is more just scored on just classic IBT point scoring system, and we keep track of your top four scores, and it gives you an idea of who scored the most points. So that comes down to pins, that comes down to major decisions and techs, and it comes down to winning the most matches. Typically, it's these middleweight kids have an advantage because they're going to wrestle the most matches. They'll have the most full brackets, and so that's normally what we see. But we want to reward that. There's a surprising number of kids that come in and they're going to win all these awards, and they've lost matches this summer. So that says a lot about the way that we pair people together, about how competitive things are.
Well, I think a good thing about it is that this series takes over, such a, nice little length of time, and it overlaps with some bigger tournaments that, there's some tournaments that the kids decide to go, maybe down south, and then a lot of other kids that are, grinding for that Gatorhead Cup or that Grand Champions hoodie, they get a chance to sneak in and really rise up in the rankings over the course of these, what is it, 5, 6 events?
Yep. Yeah. So it's six events and it's your top four. And we've tried to schedule around those bigger events. We just came off of Childs, which overlap with Spartan, which that hurts our registration numbers. That hurts, the money we raise. But we always envisioned the Gator Cup as a stepping stone to those bigger events. So the fact that these kids are going there is great. The idea that you'll just go to practice and then all of a sudden go to these large tournaments down south, 3+ hours away, is kind of um, there's got to be a way to bridge the gap there, and so that's hopefully what the Gator Cup is. And we've had a lot of more efforts come up over the past few years along the same lines. So we're happy to keep this going along the same timeline. I think we'll have some changes for next year, but honestly, this year has been a huge success. So not a lot of things are going to change. So
Yeah, dude. I went to, I think, the South Walton one, and then I'm always on track wrestling, sitting there looking at as the other tournaments are developing, and there's been some really good matches. There's been some really
yeah,
really good brackets. One particular I want to shout out from last one in Charles is that one that Joseph Stepien won, that 100 pound, I
yeah,
think, schoolboy one. That one was
yep.
really good. I think every single match except for like two went down to a 1 point decision.
Yeah, and those matches as we get to the end of the series, it's funny you bring that up because this is a situation where Stepien is third place for the Gatorhead. The kid he was wrestling is second place. Rhodey Wells from Wicked Clover is second place, and then Joey's teammate is in first place. So in order for Joey's teammate to get the Gatorhead, he might have to beat Rhodey at the championship. So we're starting to get these things where the teammates are getting into it. The kids are trying to do the math to figure out how many points they have, and I don't really have a good way for them to know, which scores are getting dropped. So it's kind of a surprise to them with the Gatorheads, but that's the old school way of doing it, where you got to sit there and wait for people to tally up the old team scores. So
Well,
that's that's where
anytime you
we're
can
at.
get some kids doing math, is a
Yeah,
win. That's what
I
I say.
I knew I was doing it right when I had my own parent texting me on the side. He's like, "Oh man, I really wish I wish Levi would have pinned that last match." So, but that's I'm telling on him a little bit there, but he was the kids seem to like it. I think the grand champion hoodie has been a good implementation because kids aren't really complaining as much about the scoring not being fair. We've had that in the past. We had a Joey's an example of it. So last year at the Gator Cups, he went 17-0, and he just did not have the matches going into the finale that we thought where he would win. And it's tough to tell a kid that went 17-0 that we're going to give the trophy to somebody else. So he's actually the inspiration behind a lot of this grand champion stuff that we started. Um,
Dude,
but
he's been
yeah,
on it. He has been
yeah, it's awesome.
that's I love what you and to mention another, the person that does a lot of work to put competition in this area, Jason Westlager with his, spring and fall series. Joseph Stepien fell a little bit short of getting that belt that he wanted, but it seems since then, he's been cleaning up in the Gator Cup. So it
It
just
is.
shows how awesome it is that you guys are providing these unique opportunities, not just opportunities, because we always have those tournaments where we could go and sign up, we register, double bracket, get our little NHSCA medal, and then go out the door. It's really cool that you guys are giving these like long, very campaign like events for these kids
Yes.
to get excited about.
And I do want to say it too, because a lot of people don't see it, but being on the scoring side of things and looking up and seeing how many kids, like we were through 4 events, there were no kids who had went to all 4 events and won all their matches. Back when I was in high school, I would have swore that there were awesome kids everywhere, and that would have happened a lot more. So it's kind of eye opening to me how many, if I want to say how much parity we have, like almost across all age groups. So a lot of that has to do with the clubs that are popping up, the participation level. So things are headed in the right direction, I think, in a lot of different places, especially up here in the Panhandle.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I was like, so my son Steven, we kind of talk. We don't talk too much wrestling, but like, sometimes he'll ask like how good he is compared to like I'm like, dude, it's just not even comparable. I'm like the level that you're at. And then what's even funny is that, the last tournament that we went to the South Walton one. He went, I think like 2-3 or 3-2. I'm like, dude, you're at a level higher above me. And just as you were saying, like you and I would go to these tournaments and sit there and just kind of clean up. He's still getting competitive matches. He's getting
Yeah.
like these like 3 or 4 1-point matches. And, he's leaving tired, making new friends. I think the last kid even said, he's like, oh, you made me better today. And I'm like, I love that. I love seeing these hard fought matches right in our area, watching our kids get better.
Yep, and that's iron sharpens iron. You come to the Gator Cup and you're guaranteed a certain number of matches, and we've had plenty of examples of kids, especially 16U and 19U. You have a really good kid in 2 different age groups. They want to wrestle each other. We'll put them on the mat anytime because it's a lot of that. I know everybody wants to win the gold medals and the awards, but it is about mat time too, and these kids take that serious, especially the high school kids. So you younger kids can learn from that it's not about winning every match. It's about getting those tough matches and learning something from it. So that's what
There's
makes your time worth it. That's why
one
mat
kid
time's
I
so important.
Yeah, one kid I really want to shout out is a guy from Niceville. You have him listed as Crestview because he might end up going to Crestview, but Alexander Jaden Esparza, man, dude, he has been
Yes,
getting after it, dude.
he was. It's funny you bring him up. I notice him with his notepad. He's writing down everything the coaches say. He's a
Bro,
student of the game.
he lives like 5 minutes away from me, and that kid, every day that we don't have a practice at Niceville, he's like, "Hey, can I come over and drill with Steven? Hey, can I come over and drill with Steven? Hey, can I come over and drill with Steven?" And you know me, I'm here to try and help anybody get better, but
And that's
and he like I said, he listens. So that notebook thing, I had noticed him do that as well. He went to the BB camp that we had over here in Niceville a couple weeks ago, and he made a special mention of that. And then his dad was like, "Yeah." Once he said that, he started getting a notebook. He really wants to get better. So he's gonna.
incoming freshman too.
Oh
So
God, dude,
really
I
really
know.
young.
Yeah, he's zoned for Crestview, and we would love him at Niceville. But I want to see him do. He's gonna do well wherever he's at, and because he's
That's what
got
he
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he signed up as, and I always use any excuse I can to put a new team on there. So they're
Yeah,
getting
dude.
the
It's
Crestview
like I said.
Bulldogs on the rankings is nice. So
Of course, man. I roll with some of the Niceville coaches or the Crestview coaches over here, and that's what we're at. We're all about trying to build the program. Like I want to see all the Okaloosa teams doing well. And then multiple teams loaded with kids down the state, not just one team doing well.
Yep. There's speaking of which, over there on your side of the state, Pace High School, or Pace Wrestling Club, I should say, PWC has really picked it up. They have it's basically two efforts there. We see Reggie Allen at a lot of these tournaments. He's the high school coach, and then underneath that we have Rob Starkey and his kid JP, who is one of the kids at the top of the leaderboard in the 8U rankings. So it's nice to see them, a program that has all three phases of the game. They got good wrestlers. We already know they have good high school wrestlers. They have Dominic Iacobellis, who is one of the most impressive middle school kids we have. He'll be a freshman again next year. I already talked to Reggie. He's excited to have him. So we'll hope to see if he can crack the lineup. But he'll be there in the middle weights, probably around 140.
Dude,
And then we have Alayla Atkinson too in the schoolgirl. She's actually one that has probably gone undefeated at every tournament. Now that I think about it, she may have lost some 16U matches, bumping up an age group, but she's went undefeated with the girls. She signed up for every tournament, so she was probably the first person signed up for the Mosley Championships months ago. So that gives you an idea of how excited she is. And there's a lot of good wrestling over there. The Long boys have just um, I believe joined Pace Wrestling Club. They signed up under him last time, but those are two really good kids. If you don't know them, Tatum DeLong, he's technically 6 years old, but he doesn't wrestle the 6U because he's 75 pounds. He's a great athlete for his age. It's almost unbelievable that he's as young as he is, and he's wrestled up to 8U, he's wrestled up to 10U, and he welcomes all challengers. And then his older brother Maddox is the same way. He's in first place and his teammates in second place in the 8U age division. All those people I just named are some of our grand champions, and that says a lot about their participation. How serious they are and how dedicated they are that they've able to do that. So
well, talking about that,
really
talking
really
about
good
that.
things coming out of Pace.
Well, yeah, dude, talking about that Pace wrestling team, they are not afraid to travel. They are willing to get in the car and drive the miles to get those competitions. So I'm loving seeing the growth of Pace Wrestling Club, and just like you said too, you see in all stages of it. They're working to make that a successful program, and they're right on their way. They had some very solid kids this last season.
Yeah, that's a shout out to all those parents getting up. Rob Starkey said they left at 4 a.m. to get to Charles High School on Saturday. So I told him next year that we'd start at least 10 a.m. so he can leave his house at 5. But I don't know if that's much better.
That's why you got. This is why you got to do those open divisions early too, so some of us old guys can get in there. By the time
Can
it
get in
gets
and get
like 2, 3 o'clock, it's nap time for us.
That's what we need to do. Yeah, we can. I will look at that. I mean that open division's been interesting. We've had so many good ex wrestlers sign up for that, and that's been honestly a pleasant surprise. It was, in years past we haven't done it before. You have to register with AAU to have the open division. So we got that. I opened it up for the first tournament just to see who we get, and we have had a bracket every tournament so far. So
I'd like
that
to
says a lot
mention
about.
I'd like to mention you've had multiple state champions, college wrestlers, like so. It's not like
Oh,
it's just been people coming out of the woodwork. You've had some solid wrestlers going there.
and we've always known this, with wrestling. There's all your coaches are ex wrestlers, and most of them are young, and they get out there with a little, not really something to prove, but just to let the young guys know that they still got it. And it's been a pleasure to watch some really exciting matches, especially at Swanee. I mean, we had a match up there in the finals between Aaron Fountain, who's a state runner up, multiple time state placer, and Sean Brown, who's a state champion. And that was a little hometown action. So we didn't have an alumni duel this year, but that was a treat for some of those people. And it's been like that almost everywhere. It's pretty much the local coaches and people get out there and wrestle, and then it's a little. Hopefully, what it becomes is more of these guys get in the wrestling room, and in order to get ready for the open division, they're wrestling with the high school guys. I think that's ultimately what's going to help the sport the most. And it's going to be good coaching. You can coach your kid and you can teach him some technique, but if you roll around and go live with him a little bit, he's going to get better too. So hopefully that it just encourages the sport and keeps it healthy. And I think it's a great thing. It's been a great dynamic. Guys have been sportsmanlike, and it's kind of like you said, like everybody out there has some kind of a resume. So even the guys that lose, it's a little bit of like, at least I got out there and did it. So,
Yeah, well,
um,
I'm hoping there's some people in that open division for the Mosley one. I'm sitting back in ninth place. I gotta make up some ground.
you got to watch out. Some of these seniors that just graduated technically qualify for the open division.
Bring them on.
Oh,
I'm trying to bring my crossface cradles to generations. You know what I'm saying?
so Calvin Williams and Bay County Elite, we got to shout them out. And something's come out here too. It reminds me. So we had at the last tournament we had Derek Williams, we had CJ Calvin Jr. both out there refereeing, and we had JT Thaxton out there refereeing. And these are guys that have either just graduated or graduated in the past 3 or 4 years. They've gotten out there and they've refereed this summer. And I got to tell you, I got out there and refereed one time, really small tournament, hated it, felt like I was terrible at it. I go up to these guys after where was it? It was Arnold, I believe. I went up to him. I was like, "All right, so how was it? Did those parents give you a hard time?" They're like, "Oh, it was fine. I liked it." And I was like, "Well, if you like it, you should come back." So they've kept it up after that. Pretty much every time we call them, they're really excited to get out there. So this is the Gator Cup's provided runway for these guys to stay in the sport in many different ways, not just the coaching, the open division, but we might even end up with some referees out of this, which is needed. And the Gator Cup has always been a place for people to get experience. That includes the referees too. We can't just throw them out there in a high school match with no experience. They got to start somewhere. And these young guys doing it at the Gator Cup, this is exactly what we need to have good quality, not just quality but quantity of referees in the area. It's going to increase your ability to have dual meets and tournaments here. So, and then yeah, with Bay County Elite, they have some really good wrestlers there. Starting out with their TOTS division, they have Little Weston Owens, who's in first place in the Gator Cup, all division standings, 107 points. He sets the high water mark. He has his teammate Dawson Atkinson right behind him. Two really good young wrestlers. And then also their coach slash teammate Derek Williams, state champ, has the possibility to go home with the Gatorhead and a grand champion singlet at Mosley. He will be wrestling most likely Brian Cates, who is from Coffee County. He's a long time Gator Cup wrestler. Derek is too. I don't believe they've ever wrestled each other. Brian Cates is a multiple time state placer in Georgia. I should have looked it up right before this. I believe he's placed as high as fourth. So they're both undefeated in the elite division. They both have 3 gold medals. The winner will get the Gatorhead and most likely the grand champion singlet. So it's built up. They're separated by 1 point in the standings. They're separated by about 5 or 6 pounds in real life. So it sure would be nice if that bracket ended up with both of them in it. Um, but we'll see what happens. So it's really interesting the way it's come out and the way that there are so many competitive weight classes coming down to the end, to the point where I haven't even done the math on how this is all going to shake out. So um, it's been really nice. Pace Wrestling Club, Bay County Elite Wrestling Club. I got to shout out my own guys eventually: Levi Siegel, Harley Sharon, Joseph Stepien, really high in the standings. They've been doing great. They go basically 4 days a week here in Tallahassee. They go to Grappling House and they come see me. That's why they're at the top of the leaderboards. So shout out to them and good job, guys. My problem is I have so much stuff that I want to do with the Gator Cup that it's like if I had
Well,
unlimited time, I would do it all.
well,
But
you have year after year after year. You're doing exactly what you need to. You're executing the tournament, and then you're taking the feedback. You're working it, reworking it. Then you're doing it again, committing with what you're doing. I think what's really cool that you and Jason Wissliger are both doing is that you're making, like, it's like we referred to earlier. It's almost like these are campaigns, they're big events. You don't see that as much down south.
mm-hmm.
I think for us it was kind of by necessity because we don't have as much depth as they do, to where like a random tournament could end up having a ton of kids, or
Yeah.
a bunch of great matchups. But I think this is so cool that is very specific to North Florida, at least that I'm seeing, is the events like this, where it's like, hey, compete over the course of 5, 6, 7 events and get the chance, to take home something that represents a whole summer of work. I think
Yep.
that's really, really cool.
And I think so too. It kind of simulates like what a high school season is. Like, the coach gives you 6 tournaments that you have to go to, and you go through it. And for new parents, especially with me having my new club, it's like they're kind of trying to figure out what wrestling's all about. And so we have the freedom, like with the Gator Cup and with these tough guy things, to be like, well, this is what it is. It was 6 events, so you should go to at least 4 of them. And it's like that kind of thing. I think is what really breeds like competitive nature, because when it comes to all these other sports, you have to remember they turn right back around in baseball, and baseball gives them a strict thing on what you need to do, and then we're just kind of all over the place. So it's a way for us to organize and to also look organized to brand new parents, which is ultimately what I want to do, is to grow the sport. I want there to be more kids up here wrestling, so that the local tournament series has 200 kids in it instead of 100, on a down weekend. So, and I know that happens down south. I know we don't have as many people as they have down there. I mean, we're never going to be Orlando, but I mean, we can still have respectable turnouts here, and kind of just piece it together. And like we brought up with pace, with the time zone difference, I mean, we're spread out. We have less people. We're spread out, and there's 2 time zones, and our competition a lot of times is across state lines. And so there's all these factors going on. You have Alabama, Georgia, and us, and the time zone split. So we're kind of trying to marry all that together, and to more form uniformity between that. So it's been good so far, but I think there's a lot of room to grow still.
All right, well, tell us about the finale. Where do we register? What time
Yeah.
is it? Give us the
So
info.
June 15th, it's at Mosley High School, which is there in Lynn Haven, close to Panama City. Uh, Madison block bracketing. So that means weight classes kind of shift. It's more of kind of weigh in however you feel. You'll wrestle the people up or down 7 to 15% of your body weight, maybe 20% if you're a heavyweight. But it's a good way to get matches. It's a good way. We try to guarantee everybody at least 2 or 3, so you don't have to have competed in any of our tournaments so far. You can just jump in. It's a good way to get some wrestling down here in the Florida Panhandle, and not too far from the beach when you're done. So we'd love to have you guys out. So sign up on trackwrestling.com, and we'd be happy to have you.